all we went to the same academies together. We go to training together. Also as a firefighter as well. He was on the fire department, so am I. There's a lot of firefighters here as well, and it's a small group.
Downtown fell silent while the procession went through, the rain pausing just long enough. A large American flag with more flags saluting, many with hands over their hearts and solemn faces.
He's a fine officer. We've had instances where we've had to call him. He came, and he's always been there.
The procession ended at Powell Valley Memorial Garden, rest in a private ceremony, surrounded by family and hundreds of officers and firefighters.
It's very sad. This young man doing what he loved, which is to support and uphold justice in the community.
Looking back on the memory of the dance we shared beneath the stars above. For a moment, all the world was right, and how could I have known that you'd ever say goodbye? And now I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I had to miss the pain.
Today was not a win by any stretch of the imagination. We knew that coming in, that there was nothing that we could do to bring Officer Chandler back. But this was the best that we could do. It closes a chapter on a nightmare for us all, especially for the family of Officer Chandler. What I'd like to do is to explain what happened here today and the sentence that was received by Michael White, handed down by Judge Ron Elkins, and tell you a little bit about how we arrived at that. And at that point, I'm going to turn it over to my Chief Deputy, Stephen Davis, for some remarks. I think Congressman Griffith has some remarks. Attorney General Jason Miyares will then speak. And lastly, Natasha Chandler, the widow of Officer Chandler, will have some remarks to say. Today, we came in with an agreed sentencing recommendation that the defense counsel and the Commonwealth agreed what the ultimate punishment would be for Mr. White. This came after, I think 2 weeks ago, a federal judge handed down a very similar sentence that was within our agreed range of punishment. So today was just the state's turn to pronounce sentence on Michael White for the murder of Michael Chandler. That agreed recommendation and what was ultimately ordered by the court is that Michael White will spend 120 years in the Department of Corrections, that with 20 years of that suspended. 10 years after that, in the unlikely event that he is ever released from prison, he will be on supervised probation. $17,509.45 in restitution for funeral costs and medical bills paid out of pocket by the family. I know there's always some confusion about why we suspend sentences. That's just in case that the person is ever released from prison. So, we can't control the future. We've seen in the past that presidents or governors come in and grant people clemency. We don't anticipate that happening, but you never know. So that's why we knew that Michael White would have a 100-year sentence to pull, but we wanted to put some suspended time out there just in case he is granted some sort of clemency down the road, which he would have to be granted clemency by a president and a governor because he now has a federal and a state sentence to pull. Or in the unlikely event he does live to be 130 years old and is ever released from prison. The way we arrived at this agreement, I can't say enough about our Virginia State Police folks, especially Agent Michael Rose, who's back there, and our ATF guys through Agent Corey Duke. The work, and no telling the hours that went into this case. The federal side had, I think, 19 defendants. Is that right, Corey? 19 defendants in a drug conspiracy that was spearheaded by Michael White. And Corey and his folks put in a great amount of hours to get that prosecuted. A lot of grand jury testimonies by witnesses. We had 2 eyewitnesses to the shooting that testified here in state court and in federal court. So when everything came together and all the evidence came out, we started negotiations which we felt were unlikely at that time, but the defense counsel came to us and wanted to talk about negotiations about a year ago. And their big interest was getting the aggravated murder charge reduced or amended to something, and from our perspective, it really didn't matter what it was reduced to. We just wanted to make sure that Michael White died in prison, and it didn't matter if it was a reckless driving. We wanted to make sure that he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So we were happy to amend that charge to a first-degree murder. The death penalty was off the table because our General Assembly, just months before this murder happened, took the death penalty off the table by abolishing it. And like this case, like a handful of others that we've seen since then, in my opinion, the Commonwealth of Virginia had every right and every interest in sending Michael White on the fast track. But we did not have that option. So we wanted to make sure that he spent the rest of his life locked up in prison, and we accomplished that through the plea negotiation of getting him 100 years to serve, both federal and state. I have a lot of people to thank First of all, my Chief Deputy, Stephen Davis. He was the original prosecutor on this case. He's the one who was here when the shooting occurred. I was elected after, so I didn't come here till probably 6 or 8 months till after the shooting and the murder took place. I have to thank him and Suzanne Kearney-Quillen, who is the special counsel to the Virginia Attorney General's office, Michael Rose and Corey Duke, as I said, Grant Kilgore, Russ Cyphers, Larry Mullins with the Wise County Sheriff's Office, and deputies Vipperman and Kress, who were on scene that night, first responders. Steve Ham and the entire Big Stone Gap Police Department, Ashley Cathell with my office, who is the victim witness coordinator and paralegal on this case, Jimmy Satterwhite with the U.S. Marshal Service, all of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Abingdon, Virginia, who worked very hard on this case, and of course Tasha Chandler and the entire Michael Chandler family. Michael served his community very well. You've heard me say that in closing arguments. He was an outdoorsman, loving father, husband, very well respected firefighter and police officer. He loved being a police officer in his community. You saw from the video his personality. He was larger than life, and Michael White came into our community and slinging dope and committing crimes, and he took that away from us. The only positive is that we now know for certain that Michael White will die behind bars. He'll die alone. He'll die cold in a box, and that's the only silver lining in all of this. Today was not a win. It was the best that we could do. It was closure for a lot of us. It closed out a chapter, but it will never be considered a win. Michael Chandler died a hero, and we will forever remember him just as that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my Chief Deputy, Stephen Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. As prosecutors, we work tirelessly and many long hours, and especially cases of this magnitude, years can go by that we can make a public statement because of our ethical rules. So I appreciate Brett letting me make a brief statement. I just wanted to say something, and it comes from my heart. On November 13, 2021, Officer Michael Chandler was murdered in cold blood while working an extra shift on his 29th birthday. That was 1,216 days ago. That's 1,216 days that Michael's family, friends, and our community have mourned this unspeakable loss. For 1,216 days, members of law enforcement and our prosecution team have worked tirelessly to bring this coward to justice. On the day that we buried Officer Chandler, I promised his wife, Natasha, that I would do everything within my power to see that Michael's killer never spent another day as a free man. Since that day, one of my main motivations every morning has been to fulfill that promise. My hope is that today marks day one that we can begin to feel some peace and some closure. I can't begin to give enough praise and thanks to our local, state, and federal law enforcement officers involved in this case. And I want to give a special thanks to my co-counsel, Commonwealth's Attorney Brett Hall, and Suzanne Kearney-Quillen, Special Counsel with the Virginia Attorney General's Office. I cannot be more proud of our office and all the hard work and sacrifice of so many people that have been vital to today's conclusion. Nothing that we've done today can replace the loss of Michael, but I can confidently say that we have done everything to ensure that his killer never spends another day as a free man. Thank you all.
Next, Congressman Morgan Griffith is here with us today, and he has some remarks he would like to make.
I'm glad I'm not in Washington, D.C. so that I can be here. I wanted to be here so our law enforcement officers and their families would know that we support them and we grieve with them. The testimony this morning was heart-wrenching. I particularly was moved. Natasha talked about how God was great and how she hoped that even this monster would someday ask for forgiveness. Thanks to all of you, and thanks be to God.
Thank you, Congressman. Next, we'll have our Attorney General, Jason Miyares, who came down especially for this case to have some remarks.
Thank you. We hear a lot of talk about justice in America today. While the justice system can never replace the loss of Michael Chandler in Virginia, we'll always exhaust ourselves to see that justice is served. When I first got that call from, at the time, Commonwealth's Attorney Chuck Slump, who then became my chief deputy, it was shortly after I had the honor of being elected as the 48th Attorney General of Commonwealth of Virginia, and was honored to be asked to speak at Michael's memorial service, and was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Beyond words at that moment, to both hear the conversations, to see the same pastor that had just married Michael a few weeks before, now conducting the memorial service. It was a conversation I had with one of Michael's family members that is also in law enforcement, and he described for me what he described as the burden of the badge. It is something that every officer carries with them. Every day they're dealing with people on their worst days. Oftentimes, every week, they see things that the rest of society cannot grasp. Man's inhumanity to man. It's a job unlike anything else. It's a job that just to go to work, you have to put on a bulletproof vest. That's what Michael did on his birthday. He went to work, he put on a bulletproof vest, and he was there to protect all of us. I want to be clear. This was a collaboration. We have incredible Commonwealth's attorneys that have worked here on this case from the beginning. I'm so proud that they have asked us to come alongside them. I want to especially thank Virginia Assistant Attorney General Suzanne Kearney-Quillen for her outstanding work, as well as Wise County's Commonwealth's Attorney Stephen Davis. It's been a true honor to be on this journey with you all. It's also, has been noted, the General Assembly did something really, really foolish a couple of years ago under Governor Northam. They abolished the death penalty for cop killers. And as Delegate Terry Kilgore and I both looked at each other, both of us, at the time I served in the House, spoke out against it and voted against that measure precisely for cases like this. Because the ultimate crime does indeed deserve the ultimate punishment. I just did another end of watch, 2 fine officers in Virginia Beach on February 22nd, serving their community. And I could tell you, as Sheriff Holcomb told me down in Virginia Beach, the badge only weighs an ounce, but oftentimes the public has no idea how heavy it is to wear that shield. Well, those of us behind me understand that. We're here to have your back. And the message I would have as well to any perpetrator, any criminal that wants to harm the brave men and women that wear the shield, if you harm them, we will find you, we will arrest you, we will prosecute you, and if you take someone's life, you will never see the light of day ever, ever again. That's our promise each of us have here, either in the House of Delegates, in Congress, or amazing Commonwealth's attorney for those perpetrators, as well as these officers here that are their brothers in arms. One of the greatest punishments one can deliver to another person is to erase their name from living memory. What at VMI they call damnatio memoriae, or the condemnation of memory. I am not mentioning this perpetrator's name ever again after today. He doesn't deserve it. The murder will cease to exist for 100 long years from now. Nobody will know that he even lived. But the officers that serve in this community will know that Michael Chandler lived. He laid down his life for his community. But contrast to the defendant's name, Michael Chandler's memory, his love, and his example for Natasha and his daughter Cameron will indeed live forever. It's a true honor to be part of this and to honor Michael Chandler's incredible memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. At last, we have Tasha Chandler, who is the widow of Officer Michael Chandler, who would like to make some remarks.
I am humbled by God's grace that has carried me through this devastating journey. Through his strength alone, I have found the courage to face each day, even when the weight of loss felt unbearable. The Lord has been my shield and my comfort, showing me that even in our darkest hours, his light never dims. I am deeply grateful to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for securing this conviction and all law enforcement personnel who worked tirelessly on this case. Your support and dedication mean more than words can express. While this sentencing doesn't bring Michael back, it offers closure. He died protecting our community, a daily risk that every officer accepts when wearing the badge. Today, justice, the very principle he gave his life defending, has been served. This verdict marks a new chapter for my life. Though the path ahead remains challenging, I know that God will continue to guide us. Michael's legacy will live on through the lives he has touched and the example he set both as an officer and a loving father and husband. May God continue to watch over our law enforcement community, and may he bless the memory of my beloved Michael, badge number 512, who gave his life in service to others. Job 13:15, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. In close, we had a trial here about a year ago with a defendant that shot our beloved police chief, and our police chief is with us, Mr. James Lane. He's here with us today. And in closing arguments during that trial, I described the thin blue line that we all see that separates us from the general public from chaos. And Michael Chandler, I'm saying this to his family, Michael Chandler was that thin blue line that separated us from the evil who are people like Michael White. So we appreciate you all being here. We're happy to have this chapter closed out. And with that, we'll take any questions that you may have for us. Good. We were happy that you did. Do you want to say something? Okay. I thought Terry had a question for us. So we really appreciate you guys, and we're pleased, not happy, but we're pleased with how this ended. Thank you.